What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, as always. Today, I want to cover some of the PGA Tour updates from the weekend. Then we'll get into state of the Bucks. Spoiler alert, they still suck. And then I want to go over and recap some of the free agency moves the Packers have made in this past week and kind of offer up my thoughts on some of them. / most of them, if not maybe all of them. All right, so we'll start with the, as always, the PGA. It was the Players' Championship over the weekend, and a big congratulations to the American Cameron Young for taking first place. Was tied at a cool 13 under with Fitzpatrick going into the 18th. Cameron Young actually hit a birdie on the 17th to tie Fitzpatrick at 13 under going on to the final hole of the round, so it was pretty intense. Young hit an absolute laser down the fairway, put a lot of pressure on Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick hit it into the woods on the 18th. He kind of had to do an approach shot up to the green, and then he had a very beautiful chip shot to give him about, 6-foot putt, I would say, to save par. But Cameron Young, after his laser down the fairway, had a great second shot. He was just off the green, but the hole was pretty close to the fringe, so he probably had maybe not too much longer, maybe also a 6-7 foot putt for birdie, which he missed, and then he marked it, and then obviously so Fitzpatrick had his about 6-foot putt to save par. Barely missed it. So Young just had a quick tap in par for the victory and $4.5 million in earnings, 750 FedEx Cup points. And with that, we are looking at a leaderboard in the FedEx Cup now that has slightly changed. Let me pull it up here quick. We got Jacob Bridgman still in first place because he does still have 4 top 10 finishes, so he is definitely the hottest golfer right now. Cameron Young bumps himself up to second. Akshay Bhatia in third. And then we have Morikawa and Scheffler in fourth and fifth, respectively. Second through fifth, they all have 3 top 10 finishes. And that was the Players' Championship. Next upcoming this week, we do have the Valspar Championship. And that is in Copperhead, also in Florida. And Copperhead is actually ranked as the PGA Tour's 7th toughest course. So we'll see how the players fare with that one. And a quick note again on the Players' Championship. I think they had a bit more of a struggle than they typically do because it was super windy. Very windy, and it was definitely a factor into their shots. But still, once again, Cameron Young finishing first with a 13 under score. Moving on to the state of the Bucks. Well, last week we went through the games that we were going to have this past week. And let's just recap those quickly. Lost to the Suns, lost to the Heat, lost to the Hawks, and then we beat the Pacers by a mere 9 points, 11. But the Pacers had a solid lead. They had a 12-point lead at one point, so it wasn't anything given. But I think that was honestly against the Pacers game. If there isn't any positive out of anything this past week, I think Giannis was starting to look like the dominant player that he usually is, and he has been throughout his whole career. But even still, I mean, he's he still has a little bit of rust that he's shaking off. But the loss to the Suns, and then the loss to the Heat, and then, if anything, I was talking about how important it was, that Hawks game, because at least if you could beat the Hawks, that's essentially a 2-game swing where we put, a game in our win column and even more importantly, a game in the L column for the Hawks, who are just ahead of us. And I just don't understand, because we sat Giannis. So Giannis plays in the loss against the Suns, plays in the loss against the Heat, and then he sits probably against the most important opponent of the week against the Hawks, and then he comes on top of that. He comes back for the Pacers. Taurean Prince came back. Awesome, lovely to have him back. He's already immediately he made his presence felt, and with his corner threes, just the extra length at wing, I think, has been awesome. And obviously, since Taurean Prince came back, we're seeing a little bit less of Jeng. But I'm still dumbfounded. And honestly, this past week, I was more frustrated about it, saying, what the hell are we doing? What is going on with the Bucks? And then obviously the news came out with Doc Rivers, and that was going to be his, this is most likely going to be his last season. He's planning on retiring after the season, so it made a lot of sense. Well, to a degree, how a lot of these decisions were making no sense. But at this point, honestly, I've given up trying to make sense and trying to understand what some of these rotations look like, what some of these starting lineups are. At this point, it's just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, which is absolutely nothing, to be honest. And honestly, I'm speechless. This is one of the worst, if not the worst, Bucks seasons we've had, and I can't even remember. Ryan Garcia for the Bucks, he mentioned multiple times that this is the first, or the Bucks season where we went 15, where we had a 15-win season back in 2017, I believe it was. We have this season more 20-plus point losses than we did in that season. And I think this is the second most in franchise history for a season of 20-plus point losses. We are just getting run off the court nonstop. And the crazy part is usually it's the same script every game. First quarter is either going to be kind of close or the opponent takes a lead. The second quarter, we'll usually wake up. We play decent basketball. It's not a complete eyesore. And we've been going into half competitive, and it's still a competitive game. And then it just seems like we come out completely flat in the third quarter. They'll get a little bit of a lead, and then we just completely collapse in the fourth quarter. It's the same thing that happens over and over and over again. I'm not going to drive myself into insanity, and I'm watching this almost expecting that this is what's going to happen, because if I'm expecting anything else, and then lo and behold, it does happen again, well, as we all know, that's the definition of insanity, hoping that something else is going to happen, but nothing new happens. The turnovers continue to absolutely kill us, and I get it. Ryan Rollins has been having a phenomenal season, and his growth is nothing shy of amazing, and there's definitely a bright spot there with him, but at the same time, he turns the ball over so much. I almost want him to hold a basketball, go to sleep with the basketball, hold the freaking basketball, just don't let go of the basketball. That should be a punishment for him for a whole week. He just holds the basketball no matter what he's doing. I don't even care. He's getting dressed, he's showering, he's practicing, he's eating. I don't care. Hold on to the basketball. We just have so many turnovers. All we do is turn the ball over. We don't take care of the ball. And then I just wanted to point out one last thing. The preseason line for the over-under games that the Bucks were going to win this season was a 43.5 before the season started. And I was so hot on the over. Boy, that aged well. The Hawks are on a 9-game win streak. The Magic are on a 7-game win streak. Bucks can't buy a victory. At least tonight we got the Magic and the Hawks, so one of them technically has to take an L, finally. And what do the Bucks have coming up this week? Tomorrow, we got the Cavs at home. Thursday, we got the Jazz in Utah. And then Saturday, we got the Suns in Phoenix. At this point, honestly, it's going to be 1 and 2. I'm almost certain. And the almost certain is because I don't even know if we're going to beat the Jazz at this point. Cavs are going to run us off the court. Jazz will be a close game. I don't know what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to start throwing in the backside of their bench come third, fourth quarter, because they're going to be trying to remind everybody, especially Doc, like, hey, we're trying to throw this game. I don't know what more we can do to throw this game. Then we're going to have Rollins in there. Turner's going to be hitting threes. Prince is going to be hitting threes. AJ Green is going to be hitting threes. Nice to see him finally wake up a little bit. Giannis is going to seem like he's coming back on the upswing. And yet it's still going to be a close game, and the Jazz are going to be throwing in these guys who I've never even heard of, brought up from the G League. They're going to rule half their team out. They're just Jazz doing Jazz things. Damn, I bet the Cavs rule half their team out, because the Bucks are still that team. You know? They're going to sit their stars and feel like they can still get away with a victory. Win-win for them. So we got the Cavs, Jazz, and Suns this week. 3 games this week. And realistically, I guess I'll end on this. There is still a breath of hope, because we are, as of right now, 5 games behind the Hornets in the loss column. The Hornets are 34-34. The Bucks are 28-39. With 16 games to play? So can we make up 5 games in 16 games? It's not impossible. It can definitely happen. Am I expecting it to happen? No. Am I expecting us to miss the play-in? Yes. Am I still going to watch? Probably. But man, it's tough. All right, let's move on to the Packers, because the Packers definitely have some good news here. We can go over some of the signings that the Packers have done this past weekend since kind of the opening of the transfer window and the new league year. Sorry, and not the transfer window, the free agent window. Pardon me. So essentially, I would say one of our biggest signings so far was Javon Hargrave from the Vikings. Definitely provides a lot of help on the defensive line. Our biggest departure contract-wise, definitely not play-wise, I would say. Rashawn Gary, obviously, and it was announced that he took a pay cut to be with the Cowboys. Doesn't surprise me. And then we made a couple of other moves. Let me just organize my notes here. So we picked up Benjamin St. Juste, 2 years, $10 million. That's definitely going to provide some help in our backfield in the DB room. He's kind of a taller, thinner cornerback, and from the highlights and from what I've read, at least, and how the Chargers fans have felt about him, he is reliable. He's not necessarily going to be the best pass defender, but he's a hell of a tackler. So I think overall positive because, he's basically going to take Valentine as of this moment. I'm assuming he's going to take Carrington Valentine's spot on the field. And as we all know, watching Valentine, I mean, it's tough not to root for the guy just because of the energy he can bring sometimes. But let's be real, his tackling was definitely not his forte. We also picked up Zaire Franklin. He's a linebacker from the Colts. And we shipped out Quay Walker. Well, we didn't ship him out. We lost him to free agency. I think this is definitely also a positive because he kind of lines up with Quay Walker in a lot of regards. Quay Walker, as we know, wasn't necessarily the best pass defender. Dropping him into coverage was definitely not his forte and not his strength. But he was aggressive. He would make the tackle, and he was definitely explosive, I felt, into getting into some of those rushing lanes and helping kind of ensure that the back wasn't getting into the second and third tier and then well into the backfield. And Zaire Franklin has definitely made a living off of doing exactly that. He's much closer to 30. He's 29. So I think the big positive will be him adding a veteran presence into the locker room at a Pro Bowl level. So I think I'm really excited about it, about bringing Franklin to the team. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do next to, I'm just assuming Coop. And then we'll have, we re-signed Sean Ryan, which I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because he did have plenty. He had a couple missed snaps, some ugly snaps at center, and sometimes fell apart in the pass rush. Let the pressure get to Love a little quick. But center wasn't his natural position. And I think him, agreeing to the contract as the center, I'm definitely willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and having a whole offseason of work, specifically at the center position, and knowing that he is the starting center, not only solidifies his role, but obviously his responsibilities become more clear and clear-cut. And it's, once again, avoiding the Packers just shuffling around the offensive line. So I'm okay with that one. I'm optimistic about it. I'm stoked about Sky Moore. So we signed Sky Moore we signed him to a 1-year deal, and he was a former from the Chiefs, and he didn't put up big numbers at the Chiefs, but he was specifically the return man, and that is exactly what we signed. This is going to be no more, why isn't Nixon doing it? No more seeing Josh Jacobs returning punts for us or kicks. No more. I'd hope this solves the issue because, as we know as Packers fans, especially, towards the middle and beyond and towards, the back end of the season, anytime there was a punt and even a kickoff, let's be real, I was taking a deep breath and not even telling myself, okay, what kind of field position are we going to have? Is he going to break? Is he going to crack one for 40 yards? No, it's holding my breath. Don't mess this up. Please don't fumble. Please don't call a fair catch and then back off and it bounces and it hits off your knee. I just field it. Just please field it. Let's have possession. Let's even have our offense, even if we're starting from the 20-yard line, that's fine. Just get our offense out there. And it was not fun. And I think Sky Moore directly addresses that issue. And I'm happy because that meant that Goody also was very well aware that was an absolute glaring issue on this roster. And it was addressed head on by the signing of Sky Moore. So ultimately, let's put it this way, a little easier. We had Quay Walker go out, and all of these picks, by the way, that are leaving is just adding to our treasure chest of draft picks that we are going to have in 2027, we're going to be able to form a whole new team next year with the amount of draft picks we're going to get with this compensatory calculation. But we had Quay Walker out move, and we brought in Zaire Franklin. I think that's net positive. Zaire Franklin is a little older, but he's still young enough, and he's still in his prime, and he's proven to be an outstanding rush defender, and he is a proven Pro Bowl caliber level linebacker. And because he is closer to 30, once again, he's going to be adding value and culture that this locker room so desperately needs. So that is a net positive. We had Colby Wooden leave, and we had Javon Hargrave come in. I also think that is a net positive. I think Wooden we wish him the best. He has an incredible ceiling. I thought he showed flashes of great potential. But once again, Javon Hargrave is a seasoned veteran who has proven to do it as well at a Pro Bowl level. And he's going to be he's going to be the nose. He's going to be on the interior defensive line, helping stuff the run and just pressure right up the middle that he has so often proven that he's capable of doing. And that will help not only the pressure, it'll help hopefully our edge guys be able to set the edge a little more efficiently and be able to attack the quarterback who might even be scrambling, because we have very quick edge. We have very quick edges with Parsons, and right now it's looking like Van Ness, I'm assuming, is going to be the other one. But overall, Colby Wooden out, and we added Javon Hargrave. I think that is also a net positive. We had Romeo Doubs leave to the Patriots, and good for him. That's awesome. He got a big-time payday, more than I thought that he was worth. Honestly, I thought he was going to go for maybe his rate would be between the 16 and 18. I think he ended up north of 20, like 22 and a half. So I'm ecstatic for him. That's awesome. He was an incredibly reliable piece, and I have a lot of positives to say about Dobbs. But in the end, once again, I think this is a net positive for us. That's going to be huge in our comp pick calculation, letting him go out the door. And then now, obviously, this just opens up a whole level of offense that I really hope is geared and focused towards Golden and getting Matthew Golden involved, because we all saw that last season. He is electric, and I think that was probably one of the biggest complaints that across Packers fandom. It was just like, where's Golden? This was our first round pick, and he seemed non-existent. And then when he would appear, it would be making a huge play or just showing some sort of speed or athleticism that just brought light to your eyes watching it, and was just hoping he would get more touches. But I think realistically, I don't want to point the finger and put blame on the coaching staff and their inability to get him involved. But it's also a testament to Dobbs, because he was an incredibly reliable player. He converted on a lot of third downs for us. He made a lot of big-time catches for us. He has a great chemistry, or had a great chemistry, with Jordan Love. So you definitely can't fault Dobbs getting the looks that he did, and even then wasn't a ton of looks, because realistically, once Jaden Reed came back, we just had too many mouths to feed in that receiving group. We have a receiving core, and I know sometimes these, talking heads, they start listing off names on, offensive line, or this defense has this guy, this guy, this guy, and because they know a lot of names, they're supposed to be good guys. But Jaden Reed in every fantasy draft is he ends up being one of the top picks. Now, is he the most efficient and best top pick? No, but the fact that he does get picked towards the top is proof within itself. Christian Watson is obviously our deep threat. He's the biggest receiver we have. He's incredibly fast, and he's tall. He's the big receiver that you need to help stretch the field, and it was so obvious how much more efficient and how much different our offense looked when he was on the field. And then we had Romeo Doubs, whose route running is elite. He gets separation. I encourage you to watch any video of Doubs running a route. He creates separation. And his hands, very good hands. And he makes big catches under pressure, which itself is reason to get paid in the NFL. If you, at any given position, are efficient and making plays under pressure, a lot of other mistakes that you may have made or may have not made are much quicker to be overlooked when you are making a big-time catch to convert on a 3rd and 12, when it's the playoffs and you're facing a 4th down and you make a catch in traffic. You make fingertip catches down the sideline on 3rd and longs. These are all things Doubs did. And he deserves to get paid. But then we also had Tucker Kraft, who before his injury, unfortunately, a lot of people were saying he was top 3 tight ends in the league. He can block, he can run routes, he can catch the balls, he makes space. He's a big body that you need to be accounting for. So we have Watson, Reed, Doubs, Kraft, and that's before even mentioning the 1st round pick, Matthew Golden. Too many mouths to feed. As crazy as that sounds, it was a good problem to have. And we solved it. Golden will get more looks this year, and I'm excited for it. Rasheed Walker left, not for as big of a contract as we were hoping. I think it was in roughly the $10 million range. Will still help towards our comp picks, but I think we were hoping for a little more. This one is the first one where I don't necessarily think it's a net positive, because with Rasheed Walker officially leaving, I think that also unofficially official, means that Jordan Morgan will have a starting position will be one of the starting 5 on the offensive line. And hopefully you put him at tackle and not switch him from tackle and then ask him to play guard, and then he doesn't look that great at guard, and then he wants to play tackle, and then we see him maybe at tackle for a couple series, and he's going to be tackle. And he does have the footwork for it, but I think a lot of people the complaint that a lot of people had was on his arm length, I believe it was. But he definitely has quick feet. For a big man, he has quick feet, which is good for a tackle. But that is going to be essentially as of right now, that is going to be Jordan Love's blind spot protector, is going to be Jordan Morgan. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that, but I'm willing to give grace. He's going to have a whole offseason of work. It couldn't work. Maybe it can work. But that is the first one that I see that is probably a net negative for us overall. And then again, Sky Moore, we picked up he's going to be our return specialist. I think it's understood. I think he understands. Everybody understands. That is what his job is going to be. Sure, will he get a couple snaps on offense, lining out wide? Absolutely. Will he have a couple? He'll have a handful of catches on the season, I'm sure. But barring injury, always, of course, he will be returning punts. He will be returning kicks. And I'm excited to see it. And then we also re-signed Brenton Cox for our defensive line. Definitely a young guy showing a lot of promise. And we brought back Jonathan Ford. Those are just kind of defensive line help, or we didn't bring him back. We signed Jonathan Ford. Excuse me. It'll help our defensive line. And then we'll obviously have Parsons back, Lucas Van Ness, and then Chris Brooks again. We signed for the 2-year deal, so still kind of on the lookout to seeing what we are going to be doing for the RB2. And then, of course, that's also Elton Jenkins was released. And then Nate Hobbs we released. And I think that's just about all. Most of the moves. Rashawn Gary was released. So overall, I'm feeling really good and positive about the moves the Packers have made so far. And I'll say now for the draft, I really think this means we go heavy, especially after the St. Juste signing. I think we're going to go heavy on defensive line and offensive line. And that's where I imagine most of our picks will end up. We don't have our first-round pick, and I wouldn't be surprised if, something's like 2, 3, 4 is, offensive line, defensive line. Maybe 4 or 5, we throw in an extra DB, like a cornerback specialist again, just to add some competition to the room. If there's anybody that, Goody likes. And then I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we're 5, 6, 7, we're back to O-line, D-line. That's just my thought. We have our safety. Our safety tandem is arguably, I'll put them up against anybody in the league. Our receiver room is overcrowded already. We got, obviously, Love. We're going to need a backup for Love now that Malik went to Miami. And I think last reports were us having eyes on Anthony Richardson. I think that would be a great fit, especially since Justin Fields got re-signed, so he's off the market. So if we brought in Anthony Richardson to sit behind Love as QB2, I'm all on board with that option. And we still have Jacobs, so I think there's still going to be maybe something done with the RB2 situation. And then obviously on the defensive side of the ball, our linebackers and our safeties are in the best shape, I would say. And then we maybe need a little extra help at the cornerback and on our defensive line, especially if Parsons isn't ready to come back, which it is looking like he won't be until week 4-ish. So we'll see. Anyway, overall net positive. That's where I'll leave it for this week. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Go Pack, go. Go Bucks. And I'll catch you next week.